even when everything is going right in your world, of the great things you are doing and the positive impact you are making on your family and your patients and your team and your business, even when things are going well and the sun is shining, there are probably some automatic negative thoughts. We call them ANTS, because that's how teeny and tiny and incipient they are, that blind you to the truth of who you are. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hi guys, I'm Tarryn McCarthy and so grateful to have you here today. Welcome back to all my return listeners, and welcome if you are new to the Business of Happiness, because this is going to be a great day and a phenomenal episode, and you have landed here just in time. Today I'm here to remind you that there is nothing wrong with you. Please hear that again. There is nothing wrong with you. In fact, you are a miracle. Don't hit pause. Don't move to the next podcast because it feels uncomfortable to hear. Please sit with the discomfort of letting me tell you the truth for 20 more minutes. But here we go. You are a miracle. You are doing unbelievable, amazing things in this world. Do not move on to the next podcast. Listen and hear and receive, because that is not what your mind is telling you. And that is why this feels so uncomfortable to hear. And right now your thoughts are, who is she? She doesn't know me. This is so weird. Hear me again and allow these words to settle. You are doing great things. You are valuable. You are needed. You are worthy. And I know that your mind is telling you the opposite. In fact, even when everything is going right in your world, even when you have plenty of examples in your life of the great things you are doing and the positive impact you are making on your family and your patients and your team and your business, even when things are going well and the sun is shining, there are probably some automatic negative thoughts. We call them ANTS, because that's how teeny and tiny and incipient they are, automatic negative thoughts that blind you to the truth of who you are and rob you of your happiness and your power. In fact, you are so much more powerful than these thoughts. And today I'm going to tell you that these thoughts are the biggest lies that have ever been told in your own head, and that those thoughts are not you. You know, a few years into practice ownership, just a few years, I was still young. I had bought my first ortho practice. I was treating hundreds of patients a week. I was supporting my husband in medical school, paying his bills. I was running this practice. I was a newbie, and I was making beautiful, big strides in this world. I bought a house. I bought a practice. I made two whole human beings in this body, and I gave birth to them through this body. I created life with this little 5-foot body, and I was literally holding financial stability for my entire team. At the time, there were 5 team members. I had 5 employees. All 5 of them were the primary breadwinners of their families. And my practice, the one that I had the courage to start, to purchase, to hold every single day and every single week and every single year, my practice, my heart was providing 5 families with financial stability. And I was putting my husband through medical school. And I was giving birth to and raising 2 babies, 2 whole human beings who would go on and to make enormous impact in the world. There were many other things I was doing. I was running 5Ks at the time. I was decorating my house. I was doing amazing, incredible things. I'm telling you this not to boast, but for you to see how worthy I was. And still in that moment, there was a little thought in my head of, Tarryn, you're not good enough. You're messing everything up. You're not a good enough doctor. You're not a good enough leader. You're not a good enough financial manager of your practice. You're not a good enough wife. You're not a good enough mom. You're not a good enough daughter. You're not a good enough athlete. You're not a good enough woman. Look at your body. The automatic negative thoughts that were seething through my brain on a daily basis, despite the incredible things I was doing. Do not feel alone in this. Let's fast forward to now. My husband is working. Great things are happening in our life. We bought a beautiful home. I am now running a beautiful practice. My kids are healthy. I have another child. Things are great. I'm not so financially terrified anymore. And still, those automatic negative thoughts creep in. On holiday, in the middle of the night, in doing good work for someone, in reviewing my cases, in talking to my friends. Please know that you are not alone. And what I want you to hear today is that those thoughts are not true. Those thoughts are not you. And those thoughts do not have to continue. So I want to give you a little piece, because I know that so often, especially if you're attracted to this podcast, especially if you're looking for happiness and freedom and fulfillment and empowerment, and you just want to feel good about yourself again, especially if you've been doing so much for so many people, or maybe doing so much to work on yourself, and you still hear those negative thoughts creeping in, you are not alone. And those thoughts are not you, and they are not true. So where are they coming from? Where are these thoughts coming from? They're literally coming from things outside of you. They're little leftovers from things people have said ever since you were tiny, ever since you were a little girl. Little seeds planted. Think about them that way. Implanted. Let me say it that way because that feels more permanent, right? These little seeds of doubt and insecurity implanted in you from a very young age that have kind of developed and grown legs and roots inside of you that keep sneaking in. And imagine it like a garden full of weeds. Someone came by and just sprinkled weed seed all over your garden. If you've ever had a lawn that... Yeah, this is actually what happened to us. We purchased this beautiful home many years ago, and we didn't realize that the fill that they brought in to literally add fill to the ground. We're sitting on top of granite here. I live on top of a mountain that's pure granite. So they had to bring soil and dirt and fill in order to create a lawn. We didn't realize that the fill that they brought in had seeds of weeds in them. So for years, we had the most difficult time getting rid of these weeds so that the lawn could just be beautiful. But I like thinking about that because we didn't ask for the weeds. Probably they didn't, whoever sold us the fill didn't realize that there were weeds in there, but there were weeds in there. So we can imagine that like the weeds that society just kind of spreads, right? We get them from people who actually cared about us when we were little, but they were giving their weeds away, their insecurities. Maybe your mom or your grandmother or, your teacher or your minister thought they were giving you good things. Thought they were protecting you, but they gave you these little seeds of self-doubt, of insecurity that were planted in you at a very young age. Now let's go to dental school. Let's go to medical school where you were told intentionally you were not good enough. You were berated. Maybe you went through a residency program where that was the norm, where you were completely pushed down into the ground and made to feel completely worthless or less than. Trust me, I know many, many, many women and men who experience this in their schooling. Perhaps from good intention, because that's what your professors experienced in their education. But those weeds and seeds of insecurity and self-doubt and not being good enough grew roots. And now they keep showing up, even on a good day, even on a weekend, even on a lunch break. even as you're reviewing the radiographs after your case, even as you're sitting in a concert that your daughter is playing the cello in, and you're sitting there thinking about, wow, I'm not good enough. I got here late. I'm not good enough. I'm not wearing the right thing. I'm not good enough because I'm not doing work. All those automatic negative thoughts foster so much pain, and we believe them. And today you're listening to this episode with a purpose, because it is time for you to realize that those thoughts are not true. And just like we get to weed them out of our garden, you get to weed them out of your own thought patterns. And this is important. This is important responsibility for leaders and healthcare providers. Let's put you in the chair of another doctor. Let's take you for a moment into a doctor's office. You're the patient. Just imagine for a moment that your doctor shows up and she is thinking all these thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough doctor. I'm late. I'm not good enough wife. I'm not a good enough daughter. I'm not a good enough leader. Imagine the insecurity and the fear that she shows up to in your body, in your energy space, perhaps in your mouth. Imagine now, can you witness how that is not in your greatest good? We took this oath to do no harm, and yet the harm we do to ourselves by believing those negative thoughts actually impacts the patients we treat, the people we love, the teams we lead, because we do not show up with the same sense of access to executive function and intelligence and intuitive decision-making, confident intuitive decision-making, confidence in our ability. That's what our patients deserve. That's what our family deserves. So I'm bringing you right back again. This is about so much more than your happiness. And you are amazing. And if that feels uncomfortable, I want you to recognize, wow, it feels so uncomfortable for me to hear Tarryn say, you're amazing. And isn't it interesting how many thoughts are coming in now saying, how can she know? She doesn't know me. I'm not going to believe that. This is just a podcast. This is ridiculous. Notice those thoughts that want to reinforce those seeds, those automatic negative thoughts that keep feeding and feeding and feeding and feeding. And of course, it makes so much sense because you've been practicing them for decades. And shifting to a new perspective feels wholly uncomfortable. I get it. But your thoughts are not the truth. Your thoughts are often echoes from other people's insecurities, other people's opinions from a long time ago. And we get to question those thoughts. Why do they happen? Why do they get really loud? Well, they get really loud when our bodies are in a place of fight or flight. This is human biology. When we're in a place of fight or flight, which, by the way, if you are a doctor, if you are a dentist, if you are a mother, if you're living in Western society, you are likely in fight or flight, even if you don't feel that way, because perhaps you've been living in a state of fight or flight for so long, such a chronic level of adrenaline and cortisol that this feels normal. Or maybe you've told yourself, this is normal. This is the price of being successful, is I got to just keep running and running. And maybe you haven't even noticed your scrolling habit to escape, or you haven't even noticed your habit of binge eating to escape, but you are likely in a place of stress, even if it feels like a baseline level of stress. And when your body is in fight or flight, those automatic negative thoughts get louder. Why? Because your mind is simply trying to protect you. That's it. By reminding you of those insecurities, you're less likely to take action on really big moments that require your courage. You're unlikely to step outside of your comfort zone and do what your heart is asking you to do. If those negative thoughts win, you won't take a chance on doing something really great in this world or standing up for somebody when things are feeling uncomfortable or scary, or voicing your opinion, or asking for what you need, or saying something that might make someone else uncomfortable, because those voices then win. And this is so important, and why this message is more important now than ever. Because we are getting some big evidence in society, politically, in our families, that there is a call for major change. In medicine, in insurance companies, everywhere. These big old standards, these huge corporations and the powers that be, we're now realizing all the chinks in the armor, and things have got to change. We cannot keep growing student loans the way that they've been going. This is not sustainable. We cannot keep feeding insurance companies who are not supporting our patients. We cannot keep running businesses the old school way. We cannot keep giving of ourselves as healthcare providers to the depletion of our own health and happiness. We cannot keep feeding government structures that are really not supporting us as individuals. We cannot keep feeding hate and division. It's getting louder and louder and louder. And now is the time when we also need to recognize those automatic negative thoughts that are making us feel worse about ourselves. Because this moment in time is asking you to show up differently, to show up courageously, to show up as the leader you are capable of being, to step up and ask for what you need. And there is no action too small. You know what you need. Only you know what you need. Only you know what is true for you. And it's time for us to start recognizing those automatic negative thoughts as the lies that have been perpetuating for so long. They were seeded there. They were implanted there a long time ago, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally. But it's time for us to start paying attention to them. There's no more luxury of just going through your day being, blissfully unaware. Awareness is now imperative. And I want you to know you're not alone. And I want you to recognize how harmful those thoughts are. You're right. They are harmful. And there's nothing wrong with you. They are not yours. And I think that's the hardest thing about those automatic negative thoughts is they tell us, I'm broken. See, I've gone through 10 years of therapy and I'm still having these thoughts. See, I've done all these things. I've tried everything that you've told me to do. I followed all the rules and I'm still not feeling good about myself. I'm sitting in a lap of luxury. I have all the money I need and yet I'm still miserable. What's wrong with me? And that is probably the biggest lie of all, is the fear that there's something wrong with you. And I am here to tell you, you are not broken. Please hear me. And this is how easily we can start to shift those voices in your head. Step one is awareness. Step one is awareness. That is probably the most important thing. And that is actually what's happening in our world right now. We are becoming aware in small ways and big ways. Let's bring this down into the dental world. How many dentists, business owners do you know who suddenly, recently, in the past few years, and maybe right now, have become aware of how detrimental the insurance companies are and become aware of their power to choose differently? And became aware of the fearful thoughts of, oh my gosh, my practice won't survive if I stop working with insurance. Become aware of that automatic negative thought. And how many dentists' evidence do you have, people you know, who had the courage to take that action, who are now thriving? Let's start noticing the awareness happening at small levels and big levels, and your power to have that awareness within your own mind. So start catching yourself. As you walk by the mirror and you hear yourself say, oh my gosh, look how fat, look at how wrinkled, look at how ugly, look at how exhausted, look at the baggy bags under my eyes, whatever it is, catch yourself. Notice the automatic negative thought. Notice it as a little weed that you get to pull out. And notice it for what it is. This is not me. This is not true. I get to choose a new thought. And I'm going to ask you, back your body up to that mirror and implant a new thought with intention and love. Babe, you are doing amazing. Look at everything you are navigating today. I am celebrating you. Despite the fear and the stress that's created in our society right now, despite the division, despite the automatic negative thoughts, you are showing up today, and I am so proud of you. Despite the sugar that is in all our food, you are trying to drink water and to take care of your body, and you are working out, and you are getting outside today. I am so proud of you. This is where we get to shift the paradigm and to make a generational shift, because your children are watching, and our mothers beat themselves up, and our grandmothers beat themselves up, and it didn't serve anyone. Now we get to make the change. So today I want you to hear this message. Allow this little seed. Give permission, your autonomy of what you give permission to be implanted, by the way. And this is really important to hear. You get to choose what seed gets implanted for you. And I'm inviting you to allow this one to land. You are doing amazing. You are doing amazing work in this world, and you are enough. And I am so proud of you. There is so much love available to you. There is so much love in this world. You can find it. You have so much wealth and abundance available to you, despite what the dollar sign or the number is in your bank account. Look around you and notice the support you do have. You get to choose the thoughts you think, and you get to choose what gets embedded in your mind and in your heart. And it's a very powerful moment to recognize your power to do so. It's been with you all along, but maybe you were unaware. Allow this episode, this message in this podcast to remind you of your power, because we need you in your power. More than ever, your patients, your team, your colleagues, your children, your parents, your friends need you standing in your power. Because when we look around and we don't see the leaders that we need, that is when we get to become them in small ways and in big. We get to inspire others. So today I invite you to pay attention to those automatic negative thoughts. Thank them even. Wow, thank you for being so loud, because now I really hear you. And that is not true. And that is not who I am, because we need you in that strength. You know, this work that you're doing on yourself is courageous. And you listening to podcasts like this is powerful. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for recognizing that we start from within. We don't start by changing others. We start by changing ourselves. And we start by changing those thought patterns that tell us that we're less than, because you are not. And when you feel good, that is when you can really do good in this world. And I am trusting that you will say yes to yourself, recognize your power, and start feeling good. Start shifting that language in your own head. And don't worry if those automatic negative thoughts come again. Guess what? They will. They'll continue to come. But being aware of them is when you get to shift them and transmute them into the truth that you are a miracle and you are more than enough. And thank you for continuing the work to recognize that language and to shift it. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes, and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.